Okay. Hey everybody. I'm going to talk to you about tripods. You absolutely have to shoot food on a tripod. There's not really an option. I mean, there are situations where you might be shooting a chef in a kitchen and you're going to be running around with him. That's a completely different scenario from what we're talking about. If you're doing tabletop food, you have to shoot on a tripod. I'm showing you today two completely different sort of scales of a tripod. Here we have a very inexpensive one. This is $100. So it's really great. It's very compact. It comes with this little case. I can literally bring it in my carry-on bag on the plane. Nobody stopped me yet as thinking this is a weapon. So now it does fully extend. It's got all the little bits to do that. It is very lightweight though, so you have to keep that in mind. If your camera is on this, if your 5D, your Canon, your Nikon is on this, I don't like leaving this sort of set up while I'm running around doing things. There is a quick plate on here. I will remove my camera from the tripod, set it down safely, and start working on stuff. All right. Now, the higher end version, you're talking about studio stands. This is on the more expensive side. This particular stand, you know, is several $100s. You have your sticks, your center column, and the tripod head. All of these have different choices when you're purchasing them on the higher end. You can have a totally different type of head. This is called a ball head. This particular head over here, as you can see, it tilts one direction here and another one. I personally prefer this type of a tripod head versus the ball head. The center column, this is called a rapid column. What I prefer is a column with a crank. It's geared and you can do very minute movements with it. Very handy to have. And then these are the sticks, the legs. This one will be very tall if you want it to. So the beefier, the bigger the tripod, the more money you're going to pay. And that's about it for tripods. So it'd be great to talk about cameras right now. I actually shoot on a Canon 5D. I have the 5D Mark II. There is a newer body out called the 5D Mark III, and that has a different focusing mechanism, and that camera is $3,500. The 5D Mark II is $2,500. The Canon now has another new camera out called the 7D, and that's only about $1,700. The sensor size is smaller. It's not full frame, meaning when you look through the viewfinder, your image is going to be cropped. So the sensor is smaller. This is a full frame sensor. There's actually a big difference in that. And there is a cost as well to having a full frame sensor. The 7D is, you know, is only $1,700. It's a big price difference. It's an excellent camera and would be a great choice for somebody who's getting into food. Nikon has an equivalent range of cameras, massively varying price ranges as well. So you can go online and look at their website and see what they're offering right now. The other thing you have to have is a shutter release. This is an electronic shutter release. All of our cameras are electronic now. Back in the day, these were only $5 because they were manual, but now they're all fancy and electronic. So this thing's over $100, but you have to have it. When you're shooting food, you're on a tripod with a longer exposure. You can't touch your camera. You're going to move your camera and blur your image. So you use this, and it makes you have a really great sharp shot. And there you have it. So, of course, after your camera, you really need to have an awesome lens. There's two lenses that I really love. One is the 100 macro lens. Macro is really important here. If this were a telephoto lens, I would be way far away from the set. When you're shooting food, you're generally, you know, have a smaller tabletop area. You can't use a telephoto lens. A telephoto lens is when you're really far away from your subject and you're trying to crop in and get closer to it. That's not the scenario here. So you need a macro lens that will enable you to get closer to the food. The other lens that I like to use is a 90mm. This is not a macro, but it's a tilt shift lens. This lets me get pretty close to my food, and what's awesome about it is the tilt shift. See this square body here in the lens? You can literally tilt the focal plane of the lens. This is just so awesome, and it's a sharp lens. It's a fixed focal, 90mm, not a zoom. Same story with the 100. Now, this 90 tilt shift is considered a pro level lens. You have two types of lenses, consumer level and pro level. And of course, the difference is all the price. And so the better quality of the glass, the more money you're going to pay. 90 tilt shift, this is like $1,400, but I use it all the time. It's awesome. 100 macro, this is the consumer level, and it's sharp, and it's not a zoom. That's why it's so sharp. If this were a consumer level zoom, maybe like 18 to 105 or 135, something like that, it's not going to look nearly as sharp as this lens at the same focal length. So when it's a fixed lens, it's much sharper. You need longer lenses to shoot food. A 55, a 40, a 35, that's way too wide. You need to start at something that's at least 85, going up to a 135. That's like a great range. So just remember, the wider the angle of the lens, not appropriate for shooting food. That's more for shooting the interior of a restaurant. So the longer the lens enables you to get closer to the food and really show off the details in the food.